Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news this morning. And we saw this coming a mile away when Jen Psaki, Miss Circle Back to You, left the White House, or what was the early this year? I believe it was early this year over the summer, maybe right before December. She left the White House for a lucrative job at MSNBC. And shift course, we knew that she was doing her best in order to spin everything that Biden was saying because she knew he was absolutely unpopular. She knew that he probably didn't get there legitimately. And she abandoned ship before all of the crap is going to hit the fan. And now she's appearing on MSNBC, telling its delusional viewers over there that Biden doesn't have a shot. And it's hilarious to see this take place because Jen Psaki, of course, was held up by many of the propagandists out there in mainstream media, but at least at this one point she has actually been pretty honest. So that's a little different from her. She didn't have circle back to this. So let's go and dive into it. It says Biden's former press secretary Jen Psaki says, if the midterms are a referendum on the president, Democrats will lose, which we know it's fantastic. See this place, this was awkward. It says Joe Biden's former press secretary Jen Psaki on Sunday appeared on NBC Meet the Press to discuss the upcoming midterm elections. And this is what she had to say. So let's take a listen to what Jen Psaki says here. I'm not sure how that's either really effective, or you're trying to get the voter to take two issues and tie them together to you're trying too hard. I don't know. But an interesting response. Jen Psaki said, yeah, I think that Democrats, if the election is about who is the most extreme. As we saw, Kevin McCarthy touched on there with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'll say her name sitting over his left side, then they're going to win. If it is a referendum on the president, they will lose. And they know that. They also know that crime is a huge vulnerability for Democrats, I would say one of the biggest vulnerabilities. And if you look at Pennsylvania, for example, what's been interesting to me is it's always you follow the money and where people spending money. And in Pennsylvania, the Republicans have been spending millions of dollars on the air on crime ads against veteran because that's where they see his vulnerability. So yes, the economy is hanging over everything. But you do have to look at state by state factors, and crime has a huge issue in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure how that's as either really effective. Okay, closer to Pelosi, Jen Psaki, basically turning the Democrats off, throwing them under the bus. And of course, says look, I think Democrats have the election. It's about the most extreme, as we saw Kevin McCarthy touch on there with Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're going to win. If it's never a referendum on the president, they will lose. And they know that. They know, Biden, this is extreme, by the way. Biden as an extreme Democrat. We know this. We were told this, that many President Trump had touched on this numerous occasions up into the letting of the 2020 election. And now we see the results of that. We see everything crashing. Here's a list. Biden's the regime accomplishments so far. So if you're discussing this with maybe your neighbor, or maybe somebody that claims to be a Democrat, and maybe they don't watch news very much, maybe they don't understand the crushing inflation that's hurting everybody. Maybe you can remind them. This is the record of the Biden regime: record high inflation, soaring gas prices, a disastrous and deadly Afghanistan withdrawal. COVID vaccine mandates, 4.4 million illegal aliens crossing the border since Biden was sworn into office, inflation outpacing wages, and of course, the US is in a recession with 2 quarters of back-to-back negative GDP, peak growth going on 3 quarters, and we are going to see us continue to slip into not only a recession, but a depression. We are in a current recession. We've been in a recession for a while. The depression is right there. It's right around the corner. And they know that they're weak on all of these issues, weak on crime, because they continue to pander to criminals, allowing them to only serve out parts of their sentences, not even recommending charges for some violent offenders, or setting the bond so low that they're able to bail out very quickly and go on and continue to do crime. And of course, we know their agenda with kids and how the LGBTQIA lobby has pushed Democrats and others, corporations out there, to embrace the transgenderism agenda, which is to mutilate kids. We see that happening on a daily basis. So the general talkie's right. If it's about the president, he will lose, and he will lose badly. And I think that most Americans understand where we are because of who is in leadership. And next news. First Sweden, now Italy. The patriot political earthquake continues to up in the politics of Europe as the nationalist populists stormed the Italian parliament in an absolute landslide. We're going to take a look at the astonishing results from yesterday's national elections. We're going to see what's behind the extraordinary rise the nationalist populist right in Italy. Alright, let's dive right in here. The nationalist populist coalition of the Brothers of Italy Lega and Forza Italia have won majorities in both chambers of the Italian parliament. They are projected to have won upwards of 230 seats in the lower house, far beyond the 201 necessary for a governing majority, as well as 115 seats in the Senate where 104 seats are required for majority. So it was an astonishing election and an incredible victory for the nationalist populist coalition of Italy. Without question, the star of the night was none other than the one and only Giorgia Meloni, the leader of the nationalist populist party, the Brothers of Italy. They take their name from the first line of the Italian national anthem, and their motto is God, Family, Country. They are, as of today, the single most patriotic party, the single most nationalist populist party to assume power in the whole of Western Europe. And when combined with the other two nationals, right coalition parties Lega and the more center-right Forza Italia, we are without question looking at the single most patriotic coalition in the whole of the entire European continent. Now, just to give you a sense of how astonishing of a victory this was, just 4 years ago, at their last national elections, the Brothers of Italy got just 4% of the vote. And by the way, one astute observer recognized that that's the same amount of the vote that Maxime Ye got with the People's Party in Canada last national election. So hey, you know, that should give Canadians a moat. The Brothers of Italy went from 4% support to upwards of 27% of support in the span of just 4 years, that 27% of course, as part of this larger right-wing coalition. It's an astonishing surge in popularity and was preceded by the extraordinary rise of the Lega party, or the League led by Matteo Salvini. Salvini was the trailblazer, and all this Salvini stormed the Italian parliament back in their last election in March of 2018. By pushing the three main political issues that have propelled the nationalist right to victory all over the world: border security, economic security and cultural security. He became deputy prime minister in a coalition with the populist left party known as Five Star, who, by the way, have imploded. They've been there, a husk of what they used to be just a few years back, but regardless, the Lega party became hugely popular and Salvini thought he could force a snap election by leaving the coalition with Five Star, but Five Star just turned around and formed a new coalition with the Social Democrats. Even though Five Star promised their supporters they would never have done that. So Five Star paid for that betrayal, big time, but the damage was done to Salvini and Lega as well because they were both sidelined. They were pushed out of power due to Salvini's miscalculation. However, what analysts are recognizing is that Salvini was radically successful moving what's called the Overton window right. Manet Salvini was successful in redefining mainstream Italian opinions on political issues, moving the mainstream opinion radical only to the right on issues on identity and culture and immigration. And so Salvini has tenure set the stage for this astonishing blowout that we saw yesterday, but now with the Brothers of Italy taking center stage, who many believe are even more right-wing than Lega, especially on moral and cultural issues. Already, they've announced that immigration will be one of their top priorities. Italy's borders will once again be secured. They were secured under the deputy prime ministership of Matteo Salvini for a year and a half when he was in power. Meloni will now go back to those policies that cut immigration, particularly illegal immigration, anywhere from 70 to 90%. There are differing figures, but they all agree that immigration was radically halted during Salvini's tenure. Moreover, abortion and LGBT issues, they're going to have significant pushback in order to revive Italy's demographic implosion. That was a huge issue that Meloni has been addressing on the campaign trail. If Italy does not effectively reverse its population decline, all other political issues are moot. Italy is that people won't exist in a matter of a few decades. And of course, Meloni considers the two issues, immigration and demographics, intimately interrelated, rightly, in that she accuses the bullies in Brussels, the EU, of pushing immigration as a way to make up for the demographic disaster, the very abortion and alternative lifestyles also pushed by the elites in the EU. And speaking of, obviously, the bullies in Brussels, the elite managerial class of the EU are not at all happy about what happened yesterday. In fact, last week, they actually went so far as to warn Italy about who they voted for. Kid you not, listen to what Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, had to say about the Italian elections just a few days back. Everyone listen to this. We'll see if things go in a difficult direction. I've spoken about Hungary and Poland. We have tools if things go in the right direction. And people as a body that is always where always governments have to be accountable to play an important role. Okay, you're at it yourself. You heard. We have tools. They have retributive tools that they can use against Italy, akin to what they've been using against Hungary and Poland, so you better vote the right way or else. That's the definition democracy. According to the bullies of Brussels and adults in DC, vote the way we tell you or else, and it's not just the EU. Of course, the borderline illiterates at CNN couldn't help themselves. They're already pushing the whole Mussolini comparison. I kid you not, the far-left freaks over at The Atlantic are even more pathetic. They're claiming that fascism is returned to Italy. I mean, it's so sad seeing political illiterates writing for what were once major news outlets. Now they're just left-wing propaganda rags, literally, not that they're trash. They love Ursula. They root for the root. They love the EU cracking down on democracies that don't vote the way our elites insists they do. And it's just beyond sickening. Vile. These leftist activists disguised as journalists really are. But as we saw, even leading up to the elections, Italians came out and overwhelmingly proclaimed that they are ready to die in defense of their nation, their people, their culture, and their identity. In fact, there's a video of Italian patriots storming the EU headquarters in Rome and taking down the EU flag in order to replace it with the Italian flag. I mean, as you can see, they were not at all in the least intimidated by such threats. And once again, the European Union has been humiliated by an election that served as a massive collective screw you to the bullies in Brussels. And in many ways, they're speaking on behalf of all of us, patriots all over the world again. But it's so essential that we recognize that this patriot uprising is happening, and it's happening all over the world. Italy now joined Sweden in their election of a nationalist-populist coalition just a couple of weeks back. They now join France in their extraordinary election of their Patriot Party National Rally to their parliament. They joined Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Hungary, who's just enjoyed his fourth landslide victory in a row, and they joined the Nationals Populist Law and Justice Party in Poland. In fact, Nationals populist parties are surging everywhere throughout the European continent, meaning that this extraordinary victory in Italy isn't just the latest in what appears to be a massive return to nationalist populism in Europe. It means that it promises to be just the beginning. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.